What's going on, everybody? Happy Tuesday. Welcome to another edition here of Mean Streets live on our FTN Network YouTube page on iTunes and Spotify. Chris Meaney rolling solo with you here today. Always appreciate you guys taking the time to hang out. If you are hanging out live, smash the like button. You're watching the replay of the show. Again, smash that like button. You have any comments, any questions, some trade targets, guys to buy low, sell high, things that we will dive into a little bit later on this week. Today will be a little bit of a recap of what was a wild week 6 in the NFL. We got some waiver wire targets for you. There are 6 teams on bye this week. I don't think there's a team on bye at all next week. So this is a tough week here with a lot of good players on bye and still like a couple players and just in limbo. We don't really know when they're returning, if they're going to play, like Christian McCaffrey. Is he going to play this week? No idea. It sounds like he's going to be available for the 49ers this week. Deebo Samuel also suffered an injury. He is listed as day-to-day, so he avoided a serious injury. It's an oblique injury for CMC. So I got some waiver wire targets for you, how I'm going to rank them the rest of the season. Of course, if you're in a pinch this week, guys like Craig Reynolds and Zach Evans, like these guys may be available to you like this week. Jordan Mason potentially, like some of these players, but long term is how I'm ranking these guys at the wide receiver and the running back position. And we're going to go over some quarterback and some defensive streams as well into week 7 of the NFL season. So as I mentioned, week 6 was just it was crazy. Like good offense or bad offense or good defense is what I tweeted out earlier. This is the passing touchdowns versus interceptions from quarterbacks this week. 32 passing touchdowns and 32 interceptions. For example, week 1, 37 passing touchdowns, 25 interceptions. Week 2, 49 passing touchdowns, 21 interceptions. Week 3, 41 passing touchdowns, 25 interceptions. Week 4, 41 passing touchdowns, 25 interceptions. And then week 5, 42 passing touchdowns and 22 interceptions. It's basically like 40s, 20s. Like it's like 20 more passing touchdowns basically on average. And then we get into last week. There were 32 passing touchdowns. So the fewest we've seen from quarterbacks to date in this NFL season, and 32 interceptions. Now, you got to remember the first couple of weeks of the season, there were no teams on bye, but still we were living in the mid to low 20s in terms of interceptions. This from NFL Research. Teams this past week averaged 18.4 points per game, the lowest since week 15 in 2014 when it was 18.2. Again, that's from NFL Research. A lot of bad offense across the board. I want to give some credit to some of the defenses as well, but there was a lot of just low scoring affairs. Like in one of my home leagues, we award the winner who has like the most points for the week, and it's usually around like 150, 160. You get a couple 170s, maybe low, something like that. But this week, the highest scoring week in my league was a $116. There's just a lot of some injuries, of course, like guys leaving early, like David Montgomery. And, if you had Ryan Tannehill in a super flex, I did. Why? In a guillotine league, I just had them. And that didn't work out for me well at all. So some injuries. Dave Montgomery, have a lot of shares of him. He went down early, and it looks like he avoided a significant injury, but I don't expect to see him this week. So we'll talk about the Detroit backfield in a little bit. We'll talk about some surprise snap counts and, really what went wrong. We just chop it up as a stinker because there really wasn't a lot of offense across the board. We saw 2 undefeated teams take L's in the San Francisco 49ers. I'm more shocked about the Niners. I'm not that shocked about the Eagles. Like, listen, the Jets defense is good. The biggest surprise, I suppose, from the Jets and Eagles game is that there's no Reed and no Sauce. So you would figure the Eagles would just be able to find a way to get it done, even though on the road without Darius Slay and Jalen Carter is just a rookie, some injuries in the back end, and the Eagles lost some guys too. Right away when Lane Johnson went down, I thought, oh, this is significant, and it was significant. For example, this guy's allowed like 3 or 4 pressures, no sacks in like the last 3 years. And Driscoll comes in and immediately there's just pressure in Jalen Hurts' face, like nonstop pressure. I don't know why the coaching staff decided to, have Jalen throw the football as much as he did. Like, guys, this is a run game. This is a team that is what, number 2 in rushing yards heading into the season. The Jets were a bottom 5 team in terms of stopping the run. I would have liked to see them lean on the ground a little bit more. This from Tim McManus. He says Jalen Hurts was pressured on a season high 40% of his dropbacks, despite being blitzed on a season low 16% of his dropbacks. Again, from ESPN Stats and Info, Hurts was pressured 20 times, his most in the last 36 games, including the playoffs. So that just goes to show um, how important Lane Johnson is, especially for this squad moving forward. He's not going to suit up, which is a tough spot for the Eagles at home against Miami. And we talked about them last week. The most offense, like the most yards, total yards through 5 weeks in NFL history. They spotted Carolina 14 points, and they had like 42 unanswered immediately after that. So it's going to be really tough for the Eagles to take care of business. And I'm seeing slight favorites at home against Miami. But that wasn't really a surprise, although Jalen Hurts certainly had a bad game, pressure early on, and kind of in his head. Even when the Jets were bringing 3, he was still kind of like flustered in the pocket, but it always felt like he was really running for his life. A couple bad drops there, a couple from Devontae Smith, and some of the picks, one at the line deflected his arm at least, and then another one from Goddard. No excuses, but Hurts, I don't know what he was thinking on that final throw. And again, just run the ball on 3rd and 8, punt it. If you don't get it, I get it. Sirianni and company, they're aggressive, and they have been aggressive, and I do like that style of play. But when your offense is not really feeling it, and they're chucking a lot, and the defense is, there was certainly a momentum shift in the second half of that game and into the fourth quarter. Would have liked to see Philly run the ball, punt it to Zach, and most likely they're not driving up the field 85, 90 yards to get what would have been, I guess, a game-winning field goal. But everything that really went wrong in that second half for the Eagles, a lot of turnovers. I mean, you turn the ball over 4 times. DeAndre Swift put it on the ground. Missed field goal there from Jake Elliott. But I was really surprised with the Niners because, PJ Walker has shown us that he could be a capable quarterback. And I understand that CMC went down and Debo went down, and I also get that the Cleveland defense is legit. I mean, you could say the same thing about the Jets. I think I've seen enough here through 6 weeks to say with confidence that the Jets were going to be a playoff squad with Aaron Rodgers. Like what they have done to good quarterbacks, and I heard Robert Saleh after, he said he's made them look pretty silly and embarrassed them, and he's not wrong. Mahomes, Allen, and Hurts, those guys like combined 7 interceptions against that Jets defense. The Jets have beat the Eagles. The Jets have beat the Bills. They hung around with Kansas City. So just being depleted in the secondary and finding a way to win that game, and Zach Wilson give him some credit. He's been pretty good. But the Jets certainly got some players defensively, and the Browns as well, right? The Browns were moving the line of scrimmage. Trent Williams went down, which is huge. CMC is dealing with this oblique injury. Debo went down. Brock, he missed on some throws. The accuracy wasn't there. The first loss in the regular season, but it just the NFL, right? How quickly things can change. The Niners and the Eagles, everybody talking about them. The Niners up at the top, and then all of a sudden, now we're looking at a 5-1 Eagles squad, a 5-1 Niners squad, and a 5-1 Lions squad who may have the best remaining schedule of the 3. Maybe an uptick in terms of the 3, getting that number 1 seed in the NFC. There was a big Dallas Cowboys win last night. Chargers always find a way to lose a football game, and they did again last night. But the Lions is another impressive win. Jared Goff has been really good. I was certainly wrong about Jared Goff when it comes to the home and away splits. I was viewing him as a sit, and he was great in the football game against the Bucs, which I do believe in their defense as well. So the Lions are rolling here at the moment, and the Eagles have the toughest remaining schedule in the NFL. This stretch that they have here, I would be slightly concerned. We'll see who can return in the week to come, but having Lane Johnson out is not great for this offense. But they go Miami this week, then in Washington, then Dallas, then KC, then Buffalo, then San Fran, and then Dallas, and then into Seattle. Those are like tough football games. And if you're an Eagles fan, you want better than 500, but at this point you would take, like a 3-3 through that gauntlet. We'll see what happens there. Other surprises. I mean, there was just a ton of surprises across the board. I wrote down some snap counts that I thought were interesting to me, like Latavius Murray more than James Cook. And Latavius Murray continues to trend up, and it's thoughts and prayers, of course. Sounds like Damian Harris is good. It was scary again Buffalo in prime time, and another looked like a significant injury as the ambulance was on the field taking Damian Harris to the hospital. But it sounds like he is okay. But Latavius Murray continues to trend up in this offense with some goal line work this season. And playing more snaps than Cook. Hyatt playing 73% of the snaps. It was a career high for him. Maybe we start to see the rookie used a little bit more in this offense. Aguilar over Bateman and OBJ. At this point, I'm not super surprised. Those guys now, that's game 2 for each of those guys since returning from the injury. I'm still not impressed with the Ravens offense. It's like Zay Flowers and that's it, really. A little bit here and there from Mark Andrews, but Aguilar continues to play over Bateman and OBJ and continues to make things happen over those two guys. Tajay Spears, somebody we've been talking a lot about in this show, just deserves more touches and more opportunity. It took a long time to get the receiving yard prop on Tajay Spears, but you saw at the end of the game when he got the ball in his hands, he almost, took it to the house on that long catch in the game in London as well. 56% of the snaps, and King Henry just below that. Jahan Dotson's just out there. Hey, what are you doing? Nothing. Hanging around. Literally, Jahan Dotson. He ain't doing a thing out there. Like, this is definitely a bad call by me. I thought we would see more from him. A big donut. We haven't been saying to start this guy. We've been saying to, keep him on the bench if you want to, but there's just no point anymore. Like we said last week, Curtis Samuel over him. And again, Curtis Samuel over him. Dotson, 80% of the snaps, 80% of the snaps and nothing. Not doing a darn thing out there. Just hanging around. KJ Osborne, we said KJ Osborne has been playing over Jordan Addison. Addison found the end zone, had a touchdown. Osborne had a decent day as well. 93% of the snaps. Addison 86% of the snaps, I still like Addison more than KJ. I think he's got a higher ceiling, but KJ is, as long as Justin Jefferson is out, both of those guys are certainly worthy of starts. Foreman, 61% of the snaps. We'll see what happens here. If Rashawn Johnson is ready to go, I would expect him to have pretty much a full workload out of the Chicago Bears backfield. Kareem Hunt uptick. It was, his best game. They leaned on him in the second half against the Niners. He found the end zone of the touchdown. And I noticed when they were running out the clock and, trying to kill the clock and cap the game off, it was Kareem Hunt on the field. But Jerome Ford had a really good game. And I'm not saying that Jerome Ford's going to lose his job. In fact, I don't think that he will. He wasn't super efficient. He was better day than what I thought he would against the Niners, but they still find him a way to get him involved, whether it's through the air or not. So, Hunt will be a big pickup this week, but I still like Ford. I don't think that Hunt is going to overtake the job in Cleveland, but he is certainly worthy of a pickup. And, with 6 teams on bye this week and all these injuries, could be a flex play there for you. Singletary over Dameon Pierce. I know this is a 1-week thing. At the start of the season, we were seeing a lot of Dameon Pierce getting a bulk of the snaps, like 80% of the snaps and a lot of the touches out of the backfield. But Singletary played 54% of the snaps against the Saints, and Pierce played 33% of the snaps. Is that an outlier? I'd like to say that it is an outlier, but also Singletary, should be on your radar as a guy that maybe you put in as a flex, or, maybe this turns into a 50-50 thing. The Texans are playing pretty decent football, right? CJ Stroud did throw his first pick. We called that on the show, but we had the Saints winning that football game. And really they, you can make excuses for everything. A couple missed field goals from the Saints. Maybe it's a different game, but it was the Texans who pulled out on top. And still, Stroud was fine. He was okay, and it was an offensive struggle on both sides, which kind of felt like that was going to come. A little bit more from Jonathan Taylor, 42% of the snaps. Some more involvement through the air and things like that. Zach Moss still played ahead of him, over 50%. But I would assume this next game would be the difference maker. The teams that we have on bye: Carolina, Cincy, Dallas, Houston, New York Jets, and Tennessee. More on those teams in just a second. Craig Reynolds played 60% of the snaps, had the big block to free Amon-Ra St. Brown on the touchdown. David Montgomery left with the rib injury. It doesn't sound like it's a long-term injury, but this may be a trap. This may be a trap. This is a short-term pickup with Craig Reynolds. We'll see about Jahmyr Gibbs if he's ready to go this week. It would probably be like a 50-50 type thing. It's not going to be full Gibbs. We didn't see full Gibbs when Dave Montgomery was sidelined for a game as well. But it's a short-term thing. Long-term, it's Montgomery, right? I kind of view Montgomery as a buy low candidate. I'll get into that in a second. The Arizona backfield was completely shocking to me. Absolutely shocking. I don't know, man. I don't want to be too hard on beat reporters, but where are the teams that follow the Arizona Cardinals? Like, where are these teams? Heard nothing about Damian Williams all week long, activated from the practice squad. It was actually DeMarcado who played the most snaps out of the trio for Arizona. He played 43% of the snaps. Ingram played 27% of the snaps, but it was Ingram who led the way in terms of touches. And then, when Williams, he only played a handful of snaps, I think like maybe 11. But when he was on the field, he was getting touches. And it was early. He was getting those touches, but DeMarcado was the guy that was on the field the most. It's just it's something to avoid altogether. If I had to choose one, it would be Ingram based on what I saw, like the touches and a guy getting catches out of the backfield. I was really surprised. I thought we would see a little bit more from DeMarcado in that game. And then Evans plays 11% of the snaps. Kyron Williams goes down, and Ronnie Rivers goes down. I think Ronnie Rivers' injury is more significant than Kyron Williams. Kyron doesn't seem like it's too significant, but unlikely to suit up this week. So Zach Evans would be like a desperation type thing. So those are the snap counts that really surprised me. We'll get into the running back and waiver wire rankings in a touch, and some quarterback streamers and defenses as things like that. On Thursday's show, we will have some sell and some buy lows. I'm just looking at the teams that are on buy. I say this all the time, so bear with me for those that are just stumbling across the show and things like that. I think there's something to be said about teams that are on buy, like to go after those players, like buy lows. For example, Carolina, there's really nothing there. Like if I had Adam Thielen, I wouldn't sell. This is something that we had right on the show. And in fact, I think we had one of our better betting days. Last night it was capped off to a play on CeeDee Lamb receiving yards and receptions, and we had Keenan Allen there. We gave this on the show, which was DJ Moore stuck on 50, but of course Justin Fields, that's another big injury. He's not going to play this week, and Justin Fields going down really did hurt DJ Moore here. Although we did see some garbage time stuff, almost got to this number, but Goddard we hit, Adam Thielen we hit pretty easily. This guy just continues to, he's a league winner in my opinion. Adam Thielen is I never ever would have expected this. I liked the late round dart throw from Thielen, but here we are through 6 weeks. Adam Thielen has 49 catches. Puka Nacua and Jamar Chase lead the NFL with 50 grabs. He's tied with Stephon Diggs. And then if you look at targets, you see Adam Thielen has 59. Chase has 73, Nacua has 70, Diggs 66, Pittman 60, AJ Brown 60, Tyreek Hill 59, tied with Adam Thielen. If you just take out week 2, Adam Thielen was played about half the snaps in week 1. He had 2 catches on 2 targets. Ever since then, he's at the top of the board. He's got 3 100-yard games. He's got at least 11 catches in 3 of his last 4 games. He has at least 7 grabs in 5 straight games, and has at least 8 targets in every game minus week 1. He's got back-to-back games with 13 targets, 11 grabs, a touchdown, and over 100 yards. This guy is just an absolute league winner. I would not be selling low on him. And Hawkinson we got there. But I just wanted to bring up the teams that are on bye. Carolina, keep Thielen. Everybody else, like Chuba Hubbard, I would sell. Like if you could get anything from him, maybe Miles Sanders is ready to go when they return after the bye week. Cincinnati side of things, like T. Higgins is a guy that would be knocking on the door. Like I have T. Higgins in a couple spots. I'm getting low ball offers. I'm not buying into it. I wouldn't be selling T. Higgins, but I know that there's people out there that are wondering what the heck to do with T. Higgins because he returned this past week. I think he had 1 catch. It was early on in the game. He's not 100%. He battled through that. You got the bye this week. So I would imagine it's tough. Like you could have hit on the waiver wire, or hit on, late round guys like Puka Nacua or Adam Thielen. That T. Higgins is really nothing to you. Maybe you want to move on from him, or running back or something like that, more balance in the squad. But I would say that if you have T. Higgins, like you may be in rough shape. You probably picked him in the second, early third here. You've gotten really nothing from him overall. I would teams that are on bye, I always like to call. I always like to see if they're available, especially if these owners are desperate. They're 1-5, they're 2-4 here. They need wins. They can't afford, to roll out Jahan Dotson. You know what I mean? They need to get some points immediately. So I would be looking at T. Higgins is the big buy low, I think, for me this week. Tony Pollard, probably not available, not doing a whole lot on the ground, but made up for it through the air. CeeDee Lamb shouldn't be available. I thought it was a good game from Dak Prescott. We had him as a start. He had the rushing touchdown and a passing touchdown. It was a decent game from Dak. I did outplay Herbert. On the Houston side of things, Nico Collins, Damian Pierce. I would actually like check in on Damian Pierce. Singletary is on the running back ranking list, but I would check in. I don't think it would cost a whole lot. I don't view him as an RB1. He's like a low end RB2 as like flex play. Running backs go down early and often. That's probably a bad phrase to use, but they've been going down, I guess. Like they have. We've had so many injuries, and it's just poor play at the running back position this year from certain running backs as well. That you get a healthy body and a guy that I would expect to really average 15 plus opportunities, carries, and targets. So he could be a buy low. I wouldn't expect like Garrett Wilson's getting some targets. They're moving him around. I feel a little bit better about Garrett Wilson and Breece Hall. Those are two guys that I feel pretty good about. On the Houston side, I don't know if Nico Collins is available. Tank Dell is like a stash kind of deal, missed with a concussion. He should be good to go out of the bye. And I like him the second most out of the wide receivers that are in Houston. I think there's a higher ceiling with him than Robert Woods. And Tennessee is just, Tajay Spears may be dropped. I think like he's kind of in the like the Jalen Warren type flex PPR, maybe somebody we can flex as the season gets deeper. I wouldn't be buying Derrick Henry and I wouldn't be buying DeAndre Hopkins. I mean, the time to sell was the game before that, that he had a really strong game, but you got the Titans on bye. You got Ryan Tannehill. I don't even know if that is a significant injury from Ryan Tannehill, but at the end of the day, does it even really matter? This Titans team, they can't move the ball, isn't expected to require surgery. I mean, he's got the bye this week. He's this whole offense is just, it's so bad. The Titans, they can't get on. They can't have Treylon Burks can't get on the field, and there's just nothing there. Like, look at the points you're scoring: 15, 27 against the Chargers, 3 against Cleveland. Had 27 against against the Bengals. They had 16 against Indy, and then 16 against Baltimore. There's just this team is just so brutal. A lot of comments, a lot of questions potentially. Let's get into them, and then I have my rankings that I want to share with you guys as well. A little bit too early for start and sit, but we will be here on Thursday talking buy lows, sell highs, talking start and sit, teeing up the Thursday night football game with the Saints and the Jags. Trevor Lawrence dealing with an injury as well. Sounds like he'll be okay to play in the game. There's just a lot to really unravel. So the start and sits is a touch early, but we can take them. What's going on? Welcome in. 1sick_50. Ooh, baby, nice ride. Nice name. Deesh, brutal week for injuries. You know what? This happens. But for me, I'm out of one of my survivor pools. 2 of my survivor pools. One I picked the Rams, one I picked the Eagles. So I'm out. So that stings. Selfishly, the Eagles losing stings. My sure shot picks that I'm in a pool where you pick your own spread. I put San Fran just to win by 3 and the Bills just to win by 6. And I thought it was good to go. The Bills are like 15-point favorites. What the heck was going on there? Like I missed the first half. I had hockey and I come back and I watched the second half and then I watched a little bit of it again on Monday morning. That was another surprising. Like the Giants should have won that game. They should have won that game. There was a misholding call, I thought, in the end zone on Waller. Anyways, it was just like one of those weeks, right? It is football. Injuries are really piling up. There's a lot of just brutal backfields. And there's a lot of bad offenses. As I said at the top of the show, like, is it bad offenses or good defense? It's like a little bit of both, but there's a lot of just brutal offenses out there at the moment. Yeah, hoping Josh Allen is okay. It's another one there, rolling with Soul Patch Garner and Pickett as QB2 in quarterback leagues. Yeah, man. It's rough out there. VYNNY in the house. Ridley, DJ Moore, Watson this week. Who we thinking? So yeah, again, a little bit early. I would say, Ridley may be a guy that's just kind of on my bench here. Like, here's the matchups. I think we got Watson against the Broncos, which I like here. So let's get rid of the comment for a second. We can see all these matchups. So yeah, we got Ridley on this short week here against the Saints. I like the Saints defense. They've been winning most of their games defensively. Credit to the Texans, at home. Ridley he's just been too inconsistent. I don't know, man. Like, he struggled with drops to start the season. He had the 8 targets. Like, I've seen 2 good games. You get the touchdown, so we'll give him 3 good games. But he's been held under 6 fantasy points in 3 of the 6. The first week was awesome. 8 grabs, 11 targets, a buck 01 and a touchdown. Week 5 against the Bills was great. 7 grabs, 122 yards. Last week, 8 targets, only 4 catches. 8 targets. Week 2, only 2 catches. Week 3, 7 targets, only 3 catches. I'm playing Watson. We've really liked Watson on this show. He missed the first few weeks with an injury. He had a touchdown week 1, 91 yards on 3 catches in that was week 4, his first game. He had the touchdown. He was limited. Played like 50% of the snaps, roughly. 2 grabs, 25 yards. I thought that the passing was just awful from Jordan Love in that game against the Raiders. He had the 3 grabs, 7 targets. I mean, Jordan Love underthrew him so many times, but he still ended up with 91 yards. Now he's got this Broncos team. Like, Denver played up to their opponent, the Chiefs divisional game. They still have a really bad defense. They're selling. There's a lot going on in Denver at the moment. Even though it's at Mile High, I would lean Watson here in this spot. Maybe he's more healthy with the bye week there sprinkled in. And I forget what your other option was here. DJ Moore. I think I'm going to play. Of course, it's Tyson Bagent here, undrafted free agent quarterback. I thought he had some okay throws, getting thrown into the fire against Minnesota. It's a weak defense, but I thought, he made a couple nice throws. It's nice to see him, target DJ Moore. I think, the safe play, Vinny, would be Ridley and Watson. But as of right now, I'm leaning more on Watson. Check back in Thursday. Tonight is the night that I do my rankings. They will be live over at FTN Fantasy on Wednesday morning. They'll be live there for you. They'll probably be live tonight, to be honest with you. I kind of get them done this evening, and then they'll be up on the website. Ratcliffe will have his up tonight. And Thursday's a big day, practice reports and things like that. We'll do some start and sit. We'll share some projections. But as of right now, I feel like I'm kind of sitting Ridley, but he does have the second highest ceiling of those two guys. Ridley could be without T-Law and DJ without Fields. That's not good. Yeah, no, it's not good, right? And I totally understand the question. It's piss poor quarterback play from all 3 of those guys in there, but you need to start one of them. So you need to start one. I would just lean with Watson. I didn't know that you just needed one of the 3. I would lean Watson. The community here is pretty good as well. If you're new to the show, there's a lot of sharp minds in here. Watson Denver looks like the best option. That's I would agree with that one. Everyone seems to be telling you that as well. Ridley, very boomer bust. Absolutely. Watson seems to be the play there. 50 plus points. I don't know. I don't know. Like, I'm really concerned with the Eagles right now and their secondary. I haven't loved the way that they played defense to start the season. I would like to see them again get back to the ground game. And that's the way you're going to have to beat Miami. It started off so great for Philly. What they have, like an 18, 19-yard drive that capped off with a touchdown. It took off so much time off the clock. Like, that's what you do. Stick to that, recipe, and you want to keep Miami off the field. So Philly's been playing to some unders lately. They've been playing low, like slow pace games with those long drives, but Miami can just score at will. So yeah, that one should be a fun one. Should be highly entertaining. We'll see. I have a lead to Miami going into the Lincoln and winning that football game. Good afternoon, Means and everybody. Jordan Allen here, Daily Handle with Jordan Allen. Welcome in. No, I don't think Michael Thomas is a better option. I think you roll out Christian Watson. That's the way that I would lean right now. You got some decent options there for you anyways at the wide receiver position. John Reed in the house. Hit the smash button. Your IQ will go up. Love it. Appreciate you there. What do we got here? Hi, mate. Half PPR Superflex. I'm without Pollard. Monty, my bench. Got Gibson, Dillon, Charbonnet. Who should I grab from waivers? Maybe first loss is coming. Hey, you can afford a loss. It sounds like you're off to a really good start there. Yeah, so you're without Pollard, Monty. My bench is Gibson, Dillon, Charbonnet. Gibson, Gibson's had some pretty decent games. It's against the Giants. It's a game that should be competitive. I would expect to see a little bit more from Brian Robinson Jr., but Gibson, correct me if I'm wrong. Like, I believe he played more snaps again. It was super tight. He isn't a guy that's getting a lot of carries. He got lucky in a receiving touchdown in there, but he has had a couple games where he's catching some passes. We'll see. We'll wait on Aaron Jones if he's ready to go. You could maybe fall into a touchdown from A.J. Dillon near their goal line, but Charbonnet and Gibson, these are all 3 of those guys are really tough to kind of roll out. I think at the moment I have the lean to Gibson. as a Spears and Henry owner, I get some of the concern, but also Henry's getting the ball significantly more. I feel like the snap percentage is keeping him fresher. Could be wrong, but seeing a lot of people freaking out. I would agree. I would agree with that. And I think we said this a couple weeks ago, Deesh, right? It's Spears is a guy that, he definitely deserves more touches and more opportunity. But I think having him and having him on the field does keep Henry fresh for the long haul. They need to figure this out really soon. Typically, these rookies, when they have the bye, you see a little bit of an uptick from them, right? Learn the playbook a little bit more in the bye week. Henry's still playing over him, getting, a majority of the carries, goal line stuff, even a couple targets here and there. I'm not I don't know. I just think we have to view Henry differently. Like he's just not a top 3, 5 running back. That's part of it is the offensive line is probably the worst in football, and the quarterback play is really bad. But yeah, you have them both. It's a nice security handcuff. But I just view him a touch differently. Stafford or Howell this week, John. Another good game from Sam Howell. I mean, he's not that you know the passing attempts, like the yardage wasn't there, but he did have the 3 passing touchdowns. What do we got here against the Giants is a really good spot, and then we have Stafford this week. A bit of a stinker from Stafford against the Steelers. I would roll with Sam Howell. I like the Steelers defense, even though the secondary they've given up some big plays, but they can get after the quarterback. And I see Stafford on his butt quite a bit. He's getting sacked here and there. I would lean with Sam Howell against the Giants. It's pretty close for me, but I think, when I put together my rankings, I'll have Howell. I had Stafford in a couple of my leagues last week over Anthony Richardson, who, by the way, it sounds like he's going to be lost for the entire season here, unfortunately. So tough blow there for A-Rich. But Stafford, I thought, lucky he hit Cooper Kupp, and there's a tough drop there from Higbee in the end zone, which maybe would have helped his day a little bit more. But we got Anfo in the house. Would you rather have Foreman or Lat Murray? Just lost Monty this week. I would probably lean Foreman there, but I think my rankings actually have Latavius Murray. I think Latavius Murray is probably the better long-term play. I know you're looking for somebody this week. If Roshan is ready to go, and I expect him to, I would say that he's the lead there in Chicago, and Foreman takes a bit of a back seat. The thing with Latavius here, and who the Bills have the Pats. I'll lean with Latavius. I'll lean with Latavius here. They're 8-point, favorites here on the road. You could get a goal line touchdown. That's kind of what I'm leaning for there. What do we got? 12th round pick in one league. Yeah, I get lost in some of the things that you guys are talking about here with the chat. Warren RB2 worthy this week. Kyron out. Doubting I get Zach Evans on waivers. Yeah, absolutely. I think so. He's just been a guy that's catching balls. I've been viewing him. I've been playing him in one league, in a PPR league. Just because of the catches, right? Like I still think that Najee is the lead, but we've seen like 8 carries, 9. It's not bad for a quote unquote backup running back. Plus you get the receptions. He's had at least 3 grabs in every single game, 6 targets in 3 games as well. So a little bit of a boost, and yeah, you can get by with playing him PPR league. So it sounds like you guys got a lot of start and sit. We'll roll through. We'll continue to roll through, and then we got the rankings here. That we'll get into. So interesting spot here. We got Caden, the Colts fan in the house, little golfer. 10-man PPR Superflex, keep 4. You're 4-2. Wide receivers are CD, Amon-Ra St. Brown, Pittman, Zay, Hopkins, but my RBs are Cook and Pierce. Should I trade Lamar and CD for Stroud and Taylor? No, I don't think I'm doing that. So what do you got? Your backs are super thin. I don't know what else is on your team here. Like it's a super flex. Who are your other quarterbacks? You must be in a decent spot. This isn't a trade I don't like for you, to be honest. I think you're trading the 2 best players in the deal, in CD and Lamar. You're getting Stroud and Taylor. It sounds like you want another quarterback. It sounds like you want another running back, but I don't think so. I think there's another way you can do this. Maybe sell high on Pittman. Pittman and Hopkins is that good enough to get you a running back duo? I don't know, man. Like, I don't think I would trade CD and Lamar. What do you got? Yeah, Higgins. Oh, I mean, won't play 54% of the snaps, but he also had fractured ribs. So that's part of it. And we played this game before with T Higgins. We played it before with T. He was active last year in a game and then just didn't play at all in that game. What do we got? What do we got? Would you try and get AJ Dillon if Jones is out? Um, yeah. I mean, yeah, he should be rostered. He's not a guy that I've ever feel comfortable playing, but you saw last time the Packers played when there was no Jones, AJ played and he had a decent day. I think he scored a touchdown. But if Jones is out, like definitely worthy there. No, that's George. You can keep that board off. It's all good. I had it up for a bit because a lot of start and sit questions here and some of the matchups, but I'll check it up if I need to. We're all good. Yeah, I think Aaron Jones is going to play. He was a surprise active, but again, it's just early here on Tuesday. But I'd certainly have him. You just can't have him on the wire. Just trying to fill the gaps for this week due to Monty going down. I have Gus and Foreman, but I might get Latavius Murray a free agency. Also may try and trade for Dillon, but not much. Don't trade much for AJ Dillon. He doesn't look like he's been looking like he's running through mud and when Aaron Jones comes back, he's just going to be a bench guy, somebody that I don't think you'll ever feel good. I would play Gus and Foreman or Latavius, like one of those three guys. We'll see what happens here. I can't buy a tight end for the life of me. Should I just drop Henry and take a shot at Taysom? Seth Fryer balling in the house. Bolin, I think. My bad there, Seth. Yeah, I mean, Taysom's caught a bunch of passes. I don't know what the heck, man. Taysom Hill doesn't seem to go away. It just, I would never really feel good about playing him. I think, I mean, eight targets, 7 grabs is phenomenal. Phenomenal to even think about. I still think I would just roll with Henry. Maybe some dudes will be dropped here with the bye week. I got rankings here. I've seen a bunch of people in the show and they're bouncing here now, but I got some rankings. We'll get to them in like 5 minutes. All right, KJ, have Brock Purdy, Stroud on a bye. Do I drop Stroud for Love and play Love instead of Purdy this week? Was thinking of hanging on to Stroud for after week 7. Yeah, I would rather Stroud than Love. Love hasn't been super consistent. The accuracy is awful. What do we got? I still think I like Brock Purdy, even though there's going to be no Debo. We got Minnesota. I still think I would play Brock over those guys, even if Debo missed. It's still a really good matchup. He probably tosses a couple touchdowns. You still got Ayuk and Kittle there. As like don't dive into last week too much. Like this Browns defense, they grade out really well for us. They're number 1 DVOA, like for a reason. They just made the Niners look absolutely silly. That's one thing too with Shanahan. I saw some crazy stats. Like what was it? 8 3-and-outs is the most ever for Shanahan offense in San Fran. It was the fewest yards in the last like several years for Shanahan inside San Fran. That was like an outlier game, but also credit to the Cleveland Browns for sure. I like Stroud more than Love rest of the way if you wanted to make that swap. Should I pick up Zeke, Craig Reynolds, Jordan Mason, or is there another RB you recommend? I'll get into the rankings in a second. You need a starter because Pierce is on bye. I would pick up Zeke. I think Craig Reynolds is going to be a bit of a trap. It is a short-term thing. If you definitely need somebody this week, I would lean... I think Zeke is probably the safest. I know it's against the Bills, but they've given up some big rushing yards this season. It does seem like it's a timeshare there between him and Ramondre. We had Ramondre bouncing back. It was a better game for him. He did score. The thing with Craig Reynolds is it's a short-term thing. You need somebody to start now. I would lean Zeke there, to be honest with you. Jordan Mason, this whole thing with San Fran, it's so early and there's a lot of speculation. And of course, I always have my waivers run Wednesday evening. So Thursday at like 3 a.m. I like to get that extra day of practice reports. I think everybody should do that, to be honest with you. We just don't know about Christian McCaffrey. Like, there's a chance that he plays this week. Jordan Mason played over Elijah Mitchell, but it was Elijah Mitchell's first game back. I think Elijah Mitchell was on a snap count. Jordan Mason looked pretty good. I'm not willing to say that Mason would get 80% of the snaps this week against Minnesota. I would say that it's maybe 50-50. I prefer Elijah Mitchell over Jordan Mason. I think he's the better long-term play. I think he's the guy that would play over Mason, assuming that Elijah Mitchell is healthy and ready to go. But I would lean with Zeke here this week. And it could be Craig Reynolds' backfield, but Jahmyr Gibbs could also return this week as well. I think it's a kind of a bit of a trap. Sad to say, but Dotson, yeah, he is. He's clearly is one of my biggest whiffs too. In fact, probably my biggest. And we've had some things right so far on this show, like Montgomery's one of them, and Nakua, but that's one that I definitely have to take a massive L on that one. Should I pick up Brock Purdy, Geno Smith, Derek Carr, Jared Goff, Sam Howell? Need a QB this week. I think I think you got to go with Goff. What's the matchup this week? What do we have? Let's get rid of the comment. Baltimore on the road in Baltimore. It's not a fun environment, but man, Goff just had a pretty darn good game on the road in Tampa Bay. And I don't know, man. Like he's in the MVP conversation. I think he is. I don't think I'm nuts to say that. He's got 11 touchdowns. He's got 3 interceptions. He's got over 1,600 passing yards. He's thrown 5 touchdowns in his last 2 games, 353 passing yards, 2 touchdowns on the road against the Bucs. I'm very impressed. And I love the schedule moving forward. Like he's a guy that you may just keep, Alan. You got the Chargers. You got Baltimore this week. Then you got the Raiders. Then out of the bye, Chargers, Bears. Like look at all the dome games. Chargers, dome, Bears at home, dome, Green Bay at home, dome, and New Orleans, dome, Chicago on the road, but it's Chicago. And you got week 15 at home against Denver, week 16 in Minnesota, dome. Like Jared Goff, probably rest of the way for you. This week, I probably lean Howell, but I think Jared Goff is your answer. Like Jared Goff, and then you may just keep him. I assume you have Burrow. Maybe you got Burrow there on bye. Sell Burrow. He's got the tough matchups coming out of the bye. You got San Fran, Buffalo, a couple spots there. They're really tough for him. Move on from him. You get something, then roll with Jared Goff. That's kind of where I'm at there. No worries, man. Anytime. Hopefully we steer you in the right direction here with some of these comments. Cameron, hi there. Can I drop my roster and ask for? Yeah, absolutely. Drop your roster. I love it. If you guys are asking me, starter sit or trade questions, I'd love to see the roster so I can know what you got. So absolutely, Cameron, drop it there and we'll get to it. Should I trade Ridley for Zay Flowers or Waddle for Zay? Man, I wouldn't trade Waddle. I like Waddle. That offense is just so electric. I can't do it. We've been viewing him as a buy low candidate. He's breaking out the Waddle back-to-back weeks. He's got touchdowns. I like Zay Flowers. I can get behind the Ridley for Zay. I could get behind that one. It's still like kind of a sideways move for me. I still think Ridley's got a higher ceiling. Zay Flowers is really nice. He's getting the targets, over the other guys, and Bateman and OBJ are just nothing. Those aren't guys that I would ever feel good about starting. Aguilar's playing over them. Man, I still think I like Ridley a touch more than Zay, but maybe I'm sucker for punishment. I just feel like the targets are there, the drops. Remember, he didn't play football in like 2 years, so maybe it's just take a little bit of time. But when Zay Jones comes back, then that could cut in a little bit. Flowers is consistently, he's doing a little bit more, but he's not getting the same type of volume. I want to look at the schedule here for you. You got the bye week 13 is something to consider. If you're not off to a really good start here, Zay Flowers got the bye week 13. I actually thought that Trevor Lawrence was a sell high candidate for me a couple weeks because of the matchups. Just a couple tough ones. Like Cleveland week 14 is going to be a tough one. Baltimore week 15, in Tampa week 16. Of course, you got to get there, but those are tough ones. You got San Fran, a matchup against Pitt. The Saints this week is tough. Yeah, you know what? I kind of lean yes to Zay. I'd keep Waddle. Okay. What else we got here? If you had to trade Geno, who would you trade him for? Like Sam Howell? Yeah, Geno is Geno's been bad. That's another one that I could take an L for. I viewed him as a really strong super flex option. He does have a couple decent games like 23-16 last week against the Bengals, but he just didn't toss any touchdowns. Like get over 300 passing yards. I still kind of like him, but the schedule is extremely tough. So I would like you got week 12 San Fran, week 13 at Dallas, week 14 at San Fran, then Philly week 15. That is basically as tough as it gets. So I'd be looking to, yeah, if you could take a if there's any bites on Geno and for Sam Howell, yeah, I'd make that move. I mean, I appreciate the comments and things, and like I think that Geno's a really good quarterback. I kind of think he's got a higher ceiling because some of the weapons like Lockett and DK. But Howell's playing good football, man. He's playing good football. He's throwing the ball a lot. I kind of view Seattle as a run first team. I think Washington wants to be a run first team, but the defense is just okay, and they get behind in games, and you just see Sam Howell throwing the football. You know, there's something to be said about passing attempts. Like that's what we're in for. Volume is king, and passing attempt leaders. I'll just like look on the fly. I know this is something you guys can just Google, but I think he's like top 5. I want to say in confidence that he's top 5 in passing attempts. Sam Howell, I may even be like, yeah, he's 5th. Cousins, Burrow, Stafford, Mahomes, Howell, and Jalen Hurts. Like Jalen Hurts doesn't need to be throwing the football that much. I can't believe he threw the football that much against the Jets. Oh man, just poor coaching. Just the schedule, looking ahead to the schedule, I think is really tough for Geno. You do have Burrow. Okay. I would roll with I'll probably have Howell ranked a touch ahead, but I'd roll with Geno. I'd roll with Goff daily. All right, so here we go. Still haven't got to the wide receiver rankings, like the list, which is I'm sure I should have just got to that right off the hop so everyone could see it. Cameron B, 14 team, full PPR. You got Burrow, Bijan, B-Rob. You got Javonte Williams, Devontae Smith, London, Goddard, Flowers, Elijah Moore, Charbonnet, Jalen Warren, Zay Jones, Marvin Mims Jr., and Jackson Smith at Jigba. What do you got here? You're thinking of sending off Javonte Williams, Elijah Moore for T. Higgins. Love it. Love it. The T. Higgins team already has St. Brown, Christian Watson, Dubs, Nico Collins, and Burks. Love it, but really only has one RB Eckler. I like this. I dig this. 14 team. I view I view Higgins as a buy low, right? And especially if a team is off to a tough spot and tough start. They have Higgins on bye, hasn't done anything really this season, one good game. I view him as a buy low candidate. I like him quite a bit. And it sounds like you can afford to move off some of these guys. So, you get T with your Burrow there. It's a nice little stack. You got Bijan and Brian Robinson. So you got 2 backs. It seems like maybe you'll be thin after this, but you are getting an upgrade at wide receiver, right? So then you roll out Devontae, London, you got T, and then Flowers. So it's a good 4. I think Mims Jr. is a good stash. I think Judy will get traded. Elijah Moore. I still like Elijah Moore. There was a lot of targets from early on from Deshaun Watson. But of course, with Watson's sideline, we haven't seen the Cleveland offense all that great. Omari had a decent day. Yeah, I'm into this. You're trading Javonte and Elijah, so you're getting rid of Elijah's nothing to you. Again, you're a little thin after that running back, but you got good handcuffs here, like good high stash, high upside stash RBs like Charbonnet and Warren's in a PPR league. You can get away with playing him as like an RB2 or a flex. Should something happen. I like Devontae Smith as a buy low too. Like uncharacteristic drops from him against the Jets. Like there was a drop in the middle of the field. Oh my goodness. I'm still in over the game. But Devontae, you're going to be fine there with Devontae. George has got a question. I have Burrow, Boyd, Higgins this week, all on bye. Looking to pick up baguette from the Bears. At what point do I need to delete the app and go to Costco for that whiskey? This is the point. I think you have hit it. You've hit the breaking point. You need to go to Costco immediately, get whiskey, and delete the app and quit fantasy football for life. You got Burrow and the Bengals on every darn thumbnail that I've done this offseason. It's just crushed Cincinnati. You've absolutely cursed them. But it was a big win for them against the Seahawks. They're still alive. You can't count them out. You're still alive. But, man, you're in a tough spot this week. There's no other quarterbacks available. There has to be. There's none. There's got to be. No chance. Is this super flex? You got to roll out 2 quarterbacks? You do? Okay. So you have to roll out 2 quarterbacks and you don't have a third. No. You got 2 quarterbacks in super flex. That's probably your first mistake. You need to have 3. You need to have 3 quarterbacks in a super flex league to cover these buys. But you need to grab Baguette. You need to grab them. Bajent. You have Stroud. So you're rolling out Stroud, and then you're looking for the second quarterback. You could get away with 6 teams on bye. You could maybe just play somebody else, and that doesn't need to be a quarterback. Although, is your super flex quarterback only? Like you could play a running back, wide receiver, a tight end in that spot. You could maybe do something like that. But I mean, he's a quarterback. Like, I mean, he may not be a great quarterback, but like I said, I mean, I went back and I watched some of it this morning, and I thought he made some decent throws. He's got the Raiders this week, so like the matchup isn't awful. He's got a guy in DJ Moore that he could lean on. He was 10 for 14, 71%, 83 yards. It's not awful. I wouldn't imagine people are spending a lot of fab, and I wouldn't say that you need to spend a lot of fab there. But pick him up. Pick him up. It's nice that you got Stroud. You have a backup option where you can just roll out somebody else and running back, wide receiver, and then get some whiskey and pound some whiskey and watch your fantasy squad. Kind of shit the bed this week, probably. Javier, I traded James Cook for Michael Pittman. Win or a loss? Yeah, these ones are tough, like, because I don't know who else is on your team. Like, I can look at my crystal ball and say that Michael Pittman's going to have a better season than James Cook, but really, it's just like it's kind of like an educated guess. I'll say that it's a win. Again, this is tough for me to evaluate because again, I don't know who else is on your team, and running backs are hard to come by. Like they're tough. Like we're talking about a lot of average running backs over the past couple weeks, like spending fab on guys that aren't even really touching the field. So I'm an alpha wide receiver guy, but I preferred in season to have some of this running back depth. And you still have Cook, who's linked to a really good offense. But if you have two good backs and you're thin at wide receiver, you're getting a wide receiver too. So I mean, it sounds like it's a decent trade there for maybe both parties. Mateo, I have Russell Wilson as my starting quarterback. My record is 0-5-1 in a 12-team league. Do I keep Russ or drop him for someone else rest of the season? Thanks, FTN Network. I love the thanks here. Yeah, I think you need to move on from Russell Wilson. I don't know what other quarterbacks are available to you. I don't know if Russ is the reason why you're losing football games. He actually had a couple decent starts, at the beginning of the season, like 28 fantasy points, 22, 18. He's had at least 15 in every start but one. Kansas City's a tough one. You got Green Bay this week, a little bit easier. But to me, like Denver seems like it's an absolute dumpster fire. Like we had the gift that we were rolling out for Russ last year, but they could trade Judy, they could trade Surtain, they could move on from a lot of guys. Rebuilding here with Russ is not the way to go, but yeah, I would move on, man. He's got KC again. You got week 9 bye. You got Buffalo, in Buffalo, dealing with Bills Mafia and company week 10. That's a tough one. So if you want to hit me up and tell me what quarterbacks are available on your waiver wire, but yeah, I would move on from Russ. Try to find someone else. Maybe Sam Howell is available to you. 18 PPR 2 flex. You got Bijan, Kyron, Cup, Olave, Ridley, Chase, Hawkinson. Your bench is Burrow, Rashee Rice, Jalen Waddle, D Johnson. You got Gabe Davis redraft 4 and 2. Who do I stream this week? Love or Howell? I would go Howell. So Love has that spot against Denver, which is it seems like a good spot, but Mile High is, it can get you. It can get you. I would lean with Sam Howell there, as we mentioned, top 5 in pass attempts. The Giants got young corners. I would lean with Sam Howell there. He's throwing the football a lot. You got yourself a pretty solid squad. I mean, I know 18 leagues. You tend to have decent benches, and it can get really tough figuring out which guys to start. But you got Cup there and Cup and Chase. Oh man. And Hawkinson is was one of my favorite tight ends to draft. So you're in a good spot. I would go with Sam Howell this week, sir. No problem. Hopefully steer you in the right direction there. Javier, non PPR. So this is the team. Is this the trade that we saw earlier? Cook for Pittman. So Lamar, Eckler, B-Rob, AJ, Jacoby, Laporta, Lockett, Goff, Spears, Kyron, Dell, D Johnson, Goddard. So all right, you got 2 tight ends here, probably not needed, but I get it. I think Laporta's coming up on a bye. Yeah, I like the move, right? You moved on from Cook. You got Eckler, B-Rob. Kyron's going to miss a little bit of time. So you're a little bit thin. Deontay Johnson, I don't know. Like, I suppose you're just stashing him. Um, I like your wide receivers, Brown and Jacoby Lockett. They're decent three. Kind of missing a 2 or 3 there, but yeah, you're a little bit thin. You move on from Cook, you're all of a sudden a little bit thin. I probably would have kept the running back depth, to be honest with you. Eckler, Brian Robinson, and then you have James Cook as your 3. I'm sure the Kyron thing, like that Kyron thing, burned you. Like if he was healthy, then it's easy to move on from Cook, and then you have those 3, and then you have AJ, Jacoby, Lockett, and then it's not the end of the world. I think the trade is fine. I think the trade is fine. I like to have this running back depth at this time of the season, though. There's always wide receivers to kind of pick up. Would you trade Kyron for Cousins and Watson or Flowers? I've been streaming QBs since A-Rod went down, and I got Kamara and Stevenson at RB. So you got 2 backs there. Stevenson low on RB2. Like him more in PPR leagues. Yeah, I think there's a buy coming up for Cousins. These are things that you have to plan. Like you have to look ahead. So it's not till week 13. A couple tough spots there. San Fran, the Saints, but the playoff schedule is okay. What quarterback are you streaming? What's I'm not sure what quarterbacks. Cousins is a top 10 quarterback. Cousins is a top 10 quarterback, even without Justin Jefferson. I mean, he chucks it so much. I like his options. I like the play calling, Kevin O'Connell. Yeah, I could do. You could do that. Kyron for Cousins, and you're getting one of those wide receivers and Watson or Flowers. I dig that. I make the move. Right, Kyron's hurt right now too. I'm surprised you can even make that move. Get it done before it's too late. But like if your streaming options are like Jared Goff or Sam Howell or CJ Stroud, it's okay. Like those aren't awful options. But the fact that you're getting Watson and Flowers and trading Kyron for Cousins and Watson or Flowers, I like it, man. I'd get that done. Trade DK and Lamb for Walker and Ridley. No, I wouldn't. The only way I would do that deal is if you were loaded at wide receiver. I don't know what else is on your team here, Alex, but again, these questions are better suited for me if I know what is on your squad. I need to see that. I could say yes and no to everything. I don't know what else is on your team here. Like, I would assume you're good at wide receiver. Like to trade DK and Lamb, you must have like Thielen or Nakua or other guys that you feel confident rolling out every week, because I would rather have the DK and the Lamb side. You probably are thin at running back because you started your draft, maybe some wide receivers. So you're getting Walker and Ridley. I lean no, but again, I don't know what your running back room looks like. Like you may need Kenneth Walker there. No problem. No problem. Love it. Love it. You're the man, Javier. And I like that you hit that follow button. I like that. Here to answer any of those questions anytime. There's Howell right now. Baker, that's about it. But Howell could be picked up on the waiver wire. Yeah. So you could just that's the one with the Cousins trade, right? I would make that move if it meant you're getting Watson and Flowers. Like if you're getting Watson and Flowers with Cousins, I would make that move immediately. If that's not the case, I still think Kyron for Cousins is a good one for you as long as you're set at the running back position. Doesn't sound like it's a significant injury for Kyron, but we did talk about selling high on him a couple weeks ago because I didn't know if his body would hold up. Like he was just getting 20 plus opportunities those first couple of weeks. I was just a little pessimistic, I suppose. Like I was a little negative thinking that would catch up to him over time, and maybe it has. But if you are good at running back, you are getting an upgrade. You are getting an upgrade there. But I think Howell's a decent borderline top 12, 13 quarterback. I mean, in fantasy right now, he is. So trade DK and Lamb for, I think we already got to that one. I'm on the bats. Jacobs and Hawkinson for Bijan. No, I wouldn't do it. I mean, I want to see a little bit more from Bijan. He definitely looks like a really good back, but 13 for 37, 14 for 46, 10 for 33, 10 for 56. Those aren't Those aren't rushing. That's not like third overall talk that we've been hearing all offseason. It's nice that he's getting catches 6, 4, 4, 5, 2, and 5. He's got 2 receiving touchdowns. He's yet to get a rushing touchdown. He's got 400 rushing yards in 6 games. And Tyler Algier is still getting touches and touches inside the red zone. I feel like, anyways, I'm not going to get into it. There's a long season left for Bijan to finish as a top 5 back. But Jacobs is Hawkinson's a stud, right? And with no Justin Jefferson, the catches are there. And Jacobs, I mean, 20 carries, 25 carries. You know, he hasn't been as efficient. He only has 300 rushing yards, but he's got 25 grabs. So he's involved basically just as much as Bijan, and he's just getting a bulk of the work. Like, he is getting all of the carries. There's no Algier on the Raiders cutting in to the workload there. Thank you for helping me and everyone on here. Yeah, everyone's pretty good. The QBs on the waivers are Howell, Ritter, Dobbs, Mayfield, Carr, Watson, Minshew, Jimmy G, Lawrence. Trevor Lawrence on the waiver wire? Wow. And now I forget your question from earlier. Looks like you need a quarterback. Oh, Wilson's your guy? Oh, baby. Drop him. I would drop him for T-Law. I still think he's got the highest ceiling out of that group, and I know it hasn't been fantastic. I would drop him for Trevor Lawrence. And I think he's going to suit up this week against the Saints. And my fallback option would be, man, Dobbs is doing things and he's running around quite a bit. But my fallback option there would be Howell. And then, you know, Watson may be available to you. Like in a couple of weeks. I think the schedule does open up a little bit. Just sub. Appreciate it. I'm out. Love it. T-Money reacts. Follow the suit. Sub. Subscribe. It's free. I'm here basically every day trying to help you guys out. We got a lot of content too. I mean, Jake Seeley, Lauren Carpenter just went live this morning on our FTN Network YouTube page. You got Mr. Shots, a couple shows a week as well. Randall's always recapping. We got a lot of content here at FTN. Alex Flores, Josh Jacobs, and Bijan rest of the season. You're not gonna like my answer. It's Jacobs. Jacobs is a guy that I'm going based on volume and opportunity alone. It's Jacobs for me, and it's a touch ahead. I like both of these guys. You know, Bijan looks really good, but it's what I've been talking about here. It's 6 weeks. It's Algier. Like, it's Algier does just not seem to be going away. Like, he had 1,000 yards on 200 carries last year, 13, 17. Like, this guy's got 30 carries in the last 2 weeks. Why? I don't know. I can't tell you. I have no idea. It should be Bijan. Robinson. He should be the guy. Is it? I don't think it really matters full point PPR either, because Jacobs is getting the touches. I'm just curious where these guys rank. I haven't looked. CMC, Mostert, Travis Etienne. What a season. Kyron Williams RB4. Achan is still RB5. Didn't even play this past week. Look at Zach Moss. Like, look at this running back room. The top 12 running backs: CMC, Mostert, Etienne, Kyron Williams, Achan, Moss, Walker, Swift, Montgomery, Bijan Robinson, Henry, Pollard, Brian Robinson, Pacheco, and Jacobs. Yeah, Jacobs has got a ton more carries than Bijan, but Bijan's been a little bit more efficient. They both have roughly 25 grabs. I have a slight lean to Jacobs, man. Just a slight lean, just because of the opportunity. He's getting a little bit more of the opportunity. And I mean, if we're really doing this, we can look at the schedule. A couple decent matchups here. You got the Bears this week. You got the Giants and the Jets. Those are good ones. Bye week 13 is a tough to have the bye right before, like, close to before playoffs, which really kills you. Chargers week 15 is a good one. Chiefs is a tough one there, but again, he's getting the catches. As for Robinson, he's got the Bucks this week is a really tough spot. Then the Titans is another tough spot. So back-to-back is basically as bad as it can get for a running back. You got Arizona week 10, which is a good one. Bye week 11. Then the Saints out of the bye, which is a tough one. You got the Jets week 13 good. Then Tampa again week 14 is really bad. I kind of have a lean. I may be wrong here, and I think the ceiling may be higher with Bijan Robinson. It's like the unknown, and he's flashy and he's exciting. I think you could definitely get more for Bijan Robinson on the market because of that. But Jacobs, I still like, I can't ignore the 20 plus opportunities and the catches that he's getting. It's really close. Like these guys are in the same tier for me. I view them as top 10 backs. Should I stream Matt Stafford? I think Tommy said he was out. Stream Matt Stafford. I'll answer just in case. Instead of Howell this week, Stafford plays the Steelers. Yeah. No, I would do Howell over Stafford. I do Howell. I know Howell has the better rushing upside. Certainly he does. I don't think he ran at all really last week. And again, I haven't done my rankings yet. They will be out tonight over at ftnfantasy.com. But I think I would lean Howell against those Giants. And I know that the Steelers secondary, they've given up some big plays, but man, they can get after the quarterback, and Stafford isn't the most protected quarterback there in the NFL. We're going to get out of here with some rankings. These are, in my opinion, the best wide receivers that are available in fantasy football over at Yahoo. 60% ownership, sub 60% over at Yahoo. So we're leading here with Joshua Palmer. I don't know. People are not picking him up. I don't know. Maybe it was the bye week or whatever. Quentin Johnson, I think, is like a deep league stash, like maybe buy low in Dynasty, because you see him on the field and he's not doing a whole lot. He had 2 targets and he dropped them both. He definitely dropped one of them. I don't know. The first one was uncatchable, maybe. But Joshua Palmer is the guy that's playing behind Keenan Allen. He is the guy for me. Number one, if he is available out there, he would be the guy that would pick up. Curtis Samuel continues to do things consistently, more so than Jahan Dotson. Rasheed Rice, we had last Thursday Night Football as a guy over 29.5 receiving yards. He had 4 catches for 72 yards. I think he's the guy after Kelsey, right? Sky Moore's not doing much. Kadarius Toney's not doing much. MVS is just on the field hanging out. Who, me? Nothing. Just hanging out. Rasheed Rice is a guy that at least, we're starting to see more uptick. He's among the leaders in the NFL in red zone targets. So we definitely like to see that. Josh Downs, quiet game from him, but 8 targets is nice. He scored a touchdown, but he only had 21 receiving yards. But this offense, as we said, I do believe it is better for Michael Pittman and Josh Downs with Gardner Minshew under center. And it sounds like Anthony Richardson is done for the season. So we look at some of the targets here. We see 12 targets, 8 catches, 57 yards. Week 3, that was a game where we seen Gardner Minshew. And then last week, we saw Gardner Minshew, 6 targets, 6 grabs, 97 receiving yards. And then this week, of course, Minshew gave him 8 targets. And again, only 21 receiving yards, but he found a way to score his first NFL touchdown. Jameson Williams also had a touchdown. He's very boom or bust, but he certainly should be rostered. There's no question about that. I think over time he could be, let's say, the number 3 option in Detroit. I think the number 1 is certainly Amon-Ra St. Brown, and after that will be Sam Laporta. But back-to-back weeks here, 3 targets, 2 grabs. He had 53 yards and a touchdown. That's what he did in college. That's what he's going to do in the NFL. He's not going to be a big volume guy, like a 8 catches for 56 yards. He's going to be like a 5 for $112 and a touchdown, like high ADOT, explosive, can take the top off the defense. You got Baltimore this week, Raiders. Then out of the bye is kind of where I see him exploding. Like week 10 Chargers. And we already talked about the matchups for Goff inside a dome. So he's a guy that if you don't feel comfortable starting him now, just, have him rostered and stashed away. Rondell Robinson, we've been talking about him for a couple weeks. I don't think the ceiling is extremely high for Rondell Robinson. He's like the opposite of Jameson Williams, like short ADOT guy, 5 for 40, 8 for 62. He hauled in all 8 of the targets came his way. In fact, he's been hauling in everything. He's got 25 targets and 22 grabs. It's just the ceiling is really, really low for Wan'Dale Robinson, but in a PPR league, he's certainly valuable. Zay Jones is a stash. When he's on the field, he makes things happen. I think he's basically played 2 games, got a couple touchdowns, but dealing with an injury. The offense in New England is absolutely pathetic. It's really, really, really bad. But Devontae Parker, I don't believe in. Juju Smith-Schuster, I don't believe in. We've seen 2 games this season where Kendrick Bourne has had 11 targets. Week 1, he had 6 grabs on 11 targets for 64 yards and 2 scores. And then this past week, in a good spot against the Raiders, he had 10 grabs on 11 targets for 89 receiving yards. He's just a body. Like, injuries are going to happen. 6 teams on bye. It's desperation kind of deal. I like Michael Wilson. I've been talking about him, quite a bit here over the past couple weeks. I don't think you can start him with confidence, but it's a guy like maybe stash him. I don't know if Kyler plays a game this season. I really don't know. If I'm Arizona, I'm not playing him. I don't want to win football games. I want to be in the Caleb Williams sweepstakes. But Michael Wilson, 86 yards, 76 yards, 2 touchdowns, 7 targets, 7 grabs. Last week, 62 yards on 4 targets. He caught 3 of them. It's like a deep stash, a good buy low in Dynasty. Reynolds is on the list. Mingo's on a buy this week, but I do see him, trending up inside the offense. Marvin Mims is like a stash. Can't start him yet, but he's like a deep league stash with Jerry Jeudy potentially, getting traded. Jackson Smith and Jig. But these are guys like rookies that I wasn't in on in redraft leagues like JSN. I just didn't see the value in redraft for him with a run first offense and then having Lockett and DK. I just don't see where he's going to be a guy that we can roll consistently in redraft leagues. But people panic in Dynasty all the time. Anthony Richardson, Jackson Smith-Njigba, Marvin Mims, Michael Wilson. These are guys, Quentin Johnson. These are guys that I would buy low in Dynasty. And heck, like some people live in win now mode. And I'm one of those guys. I like to win now. I like to, keep these pieces. But if I was, off to a really good start and I could get, I don't know, Adam Thielen for Quentin Johnston, like in 4 years, I may regret that. But if I win a championship and my name's on that trophy, I am partying like it's 1969. I'm getting it done, and I'm happy about it. Like that's a possibility. And if you have a Thielen and you're like you got 1 win in dynasty leagues and keeper leagues, and you just feel like your season is lost, I never like to give up. But in a dynasty league, in a keeper league, there comes a point where you have to kind of turn the page and try to get assets for the year to come. So flipping guys that are doing really good for you for somebody like this, like a JSN, a Mims or Wilson, I think, there's something to be said about that. Elijah Moore, Jalen Hyatt. I mean, again, Jalen Hyatt's on that list. I mean, he played over 70% of the snaps. It's a possibility that, they drafted him. I believe in Daboll. I just don't believe in Paris Campbell and Isaiah Hodgins, and I don't know, Darius Slayton's out there, but he's not doing a whole lot. So like Hyatt and Wan'Dale Robinson, who they drafted 2 years ago, those are guys that I'd have on my radar. I get it. The Giants offense is brutal. I mean, these guys don't even score touchdowns. And Elijah Moore is like just a deep league stash. You want Watson to come back. Here's the running backs. And this is how I have them ranked. The rest of the season, really, I'll highlight a couple that I would move up, but Roschon Johnson's the guy. We've been talking about him as the guy all year long. He is the guy. Khalil Herbert's on IL. Roschon Johnson didn't return due to the concussion that he suffered a couple weeks ago. I would expect him to return this week, and I would expect him to be the guy over Deontay Foreman. So he is the number one claim for me. He was probably dropped even in shallower leagues. He's the guy that I want the rest of the season out of all of these guys here. Elijah Mitchell. I have Elijah Mitchell over Jordan Mason. Ratcliffe has Mason over Elijah Mitchell. I think that Mason looked better, acted as the backup, but I think Elijah Mitchell was on a snap count last week. I don't think there's anything concrete out there that suggests that, but I think that Elijah Mitchell is the number 2 here. I think he's the guy that has the higher ceiling over Jordan Mason. He has acted as the guy after CMC. He's been getting touches when CMC was healthy. Mitchell just didn't play a couple weeks ago, and then coming into this game, not 100%, potentially on a snap count. If there's no CMC this week, I still like Mitchell more than Mason. And I think both of these guys could be started if there was no CMC, as like a flex RB2 potentially. It is the Niners after all. You expect them to score some points against Minnesota, lean on the ground game potentially, and Kyle Shanahan's such a great play caller. But I just like Mitchell more. I think there's more long-term value for him. But it sounds like CMC could play this week. Singletary is because some of the guys behind him are like short-term kind of ads. You know what I mean? Like Chuba Hubbard, great, had a big game. Carolina on a bye this week. If they weren't and Miles was out, Chuba would be on the top of this list, right? Chuba was a great, replacement if you were in a tough spot this week. He caught some passes, scored a touchdown. He was good in the game that he played. I don't think that he's going to overtake Miles Sanders. I think this could be a 50-50 thing. But the fact that they are on bye, Miles, maybe takes his job back out of the break, or it's just like it's a mess on what is a bad team. But both of these guys are catching passes from Bryce Young. But like Zach Evans, this is a short-term thing. Like if you need bodies this week, like Zach Evans, great. Jordan Mason, sure. But if you're thinking long term, you're set at the running back position. Anybody dropped Jalen Warren? Anybody, didn't pick up Jeff Wilson, Tajay Spears? These are guys that I like, more so long term. Craig Reynolds, he's 13 on this list. You need somebody to start this week. You bump them up, you move them around. Your priorities should be, if you're in a pinch, Zach Evans. But again, Kyron Williams doesn't seem like it's a significant thing here. It certainly does for Ronnie Rivers. You need somebody to start this week. Zach Evans. You need somebody to start this week. No Jahmyr Gibbs. Craig Reynolds. You're looking for a long-term play. Spears, Warren, Jeff Wilson linked to what is a really good offense. So that's why I have them ranked this way. I have Singletary higher than I thought I would. Basically just on, this could be a 50-50 thing. We could see Singletary, maybe out snap and out touch Dameon Pierce again. So he's just a body, like a flex play guy that you can put out there. I guess I'm a little bit sour on Keontae Ingram. I think it's just a mess in Arizona. Again, you need somebody now. Like I would rank him Keontae, and then I would even go Desperado, and then I would be going to Damian Williams. It was Desperado, we'll call him Amari, who was played more snaps anyways than the other guys, but it was Ingram who was getting really a bulk of the touches. When Williams on the field, he was getting the touches as well. I just think it's a trap. With P. Ryan hurt, Jaleel maybe turns into a flex, but I saw Javonte out there and running pretty hard. I would view him as the lead, and Jaleel is like a flex play kind of at best PPR format there. So it really does depend on what you need. You can be a little bit aggressive on guys this week, but ultimately like Zach Evans, Jordan Mason, Deontay Foreman, Craig Reynolds, Keontae Ingram. These are kind of just short-term plays. Long-term, Roschon Johnson, Singletary, Warren, Spears, Latavius Murray. Like Latavius Murray in a pinch, you hope he finds the end zone, a rushing touchdown there as well. They like him in Buffalo. He's even getting catches in third down situations. So that's where I'm at with some of those rankings, and I think we got a couple more, and then we'll bounce out of here. Who would you start, Bijan? Would you start Bijan Algier together? No, I don't think so. You have both. I think it's okay. I don't really like to handcuff my backs. I just feel like I like to handcuff other backs because then you get into these situations. Like, when are you ever going to want to start Algier? And then you get into a bye, and they're both on bye. If Bijan goes down, you have a top 24, top 15 running back in Algier, and that's great. But you get into like a tough spot. And then if there's other injuries and you handcuff other people's backs, then, all of a sudden you have yourself like an RB2 potentially. But no, I don't think I would. Maybe in a week like this where there's 6 teams on bye and there's so much uncertainty, I could potentially get it, but I don't know who else is on your squad there. The Canadian guy is number one. I don't know. Roschon's not Canadian, is he? And Chuba is Canadian. I don't think Roschon's Canadian. Is Roschon Johnson Canadian? I don't think he is. Would you do Chase and Ridley for Jacobs and Amon-Ra? I really like Chase. I'd like to have Chase. So if your running backs are fine, are you trading Chase and Ridley for Jacobs and Amon-Ra? Again, context, if you need a running back and you are thin at the running back position, then yeah, I would consider doing something like that. I mean, you have a top 10 wide receiver in Amon-Ra. I like Amon-Ra more than Ridley. I like Chase more than everybody on that list, but you are getting Jacobs. So I'm not really sure what else is on the squad there. Oh, Palmer. Yeah. It has nothing to do with him being Canadian. Honestly, it has nothing to do with Joshua Palmer being Canadian. I see what I see, and I see him as the number 2 behind Keenan Allen, and I see nothing from Quentin Johnson. And Mike Williams is gone for the season, so jokes. I don't know who would put there ahead of him, but yeah, if T-Law is out, I would sit Ridley and start Rice. Yeah, I would. Right? If no, I would go. I wish he had a better option than Rice. Like, Rice just seems like a 4 for 50, and you hope that he finds the end zone. I don't even know who the Chiefs have this week. It usually doesn't matter. They got Chargers with a pretty good spot. Like, heading into last week, they allowed the most fantasy points to wide receivers. So decent spot. I think T-Law is going to play. Check back in Thursday. We'll have practice reports, and we'll dive into some starting sits and show off some of the projections over at FTN as well. Oh, Gabe Davis is a guy that I would roll out. I'd roll out Gabe Davis over probably both of them. And then if T-Law sits, you can roll out Gabe Davis. Big favorites against New England. He's been good. I mean, his first game, he had like a 4-touchdown streak, but he didn't. This is just a weird game for the Bills, wasn't it? Against the Giants. That was strange. Maybe Daboll had a little bit of something to do with that, of course, knowing the team as well as he does. All right, guys, we're going to get out of here. Hit me up if you have any more questions at Chris Meaney. Slide in the DMs, meanstreetsftn@gmail.com. We'll be back on Thursday with some start and sits, some projections, some rankings. The rankings will be live over at ftnfantasy.com. It's not too late to get a package. Promo code Meaney, save yourself a little bit of cash. We have rankings from a lot of us over at FTN Fantasy, but of course, Jeff Ratcliffe, who is the GOAT, one of the best, if not the best in the industry in terms of ranking for sure. And of course, he's got his own show on Sirius XM. He can help you out a lot there. And we have tools, start and sit. We have a lot of content over at ftnfantasy.com. So again, it's not too late to have a package, and we can chase down that championship. Appreciate you guys taking the time to hang out, smashing the like button, tell a friend, rate, review, subscribe, and we'll be back on Thursday. Have a good one. Cheers.